Hey guys, welcome to Approach the Nerd. It's your girl Maria Park, still in my sound booth. Really have not left since our last stream. Lots of voiceover work and auditions to do today. But we are here to talk about Fate Winx Saga Season 2, which was a bit of a ride. I will say I was very engaged with this season. Disclaimer, this is not supposed to represent the Winx cartoon. I know that the Winx cartoon is basically the template for this show, but they literally do their own thing in this series. So, yeah, you have to suspend your disbelief in terms of that. Now, this season introduced us to a lot of new characters, but we will get to that in a minute. Where it stands, though, we are still coming down from Dowling being missing. Well, at least they think she's missing. We know what happened. We know Rosalind pretty much took her out at the end of season 1, but Bloom and the others do not know this. So they're basically at, Althea at the school that is now heavily run by headmistress Rosalind and completely unhappy about it. I will say this about Rosalind. Rosalind's character is very good at manipulation. She can have you. There are moments when I'm like listening to her and I'm like, maybe she's not that crappy, even though I know full well that she killed Dowling, But yeah, she's very good at manipulation. So even though Bloom in this series is a bit of a hothead, no pun intended, and can kind of go off the rails a little bit and get on your nerves a little bit with her thinking. I don't fault her for falling for some of Rosalind's stuff because Rosalind is very good at manipulation. So basically, yeah. So in the beginning of this series, there's like a violent attack. So 2 fairies are attacked pretty gruesomely. One is completely killed, and the other one is basically like taken back to the school, or actually makes it back to the school, but like is very messed up and doesn't really have a memory of what happened and all of that. On top of that, Tara's cousin through marriage, Flora, is introduced this season. Now, disclaimer, I know season 1, there was a lot of issue, a lot of shade, whatever you want to call it, over the fact that they pretty much took the character of Flora and essentially made Tara, and the accusations of whitewashing were put in play for not only Tara, but also for Musa. And Musa is mixed, and she does have Asian in her, but she's got a lot of other stuff. So she's kind of mixed like me, and she wasn't Eastern Asian. So a lot of people were in their feelings about Musa and Tara specifically being cast. And I get it, because it is, again, though, remember, this is the multiverse. This is a different version of Winx. So Winx. And this version, I'm thinking this Winx doesn't have an Eastern Asian Musa and doesn't have, has a character named Tara. Because if you really think about it, they are not princesses either. There's only one princess in this whole thing that we know of, and that is Stella. So this whole universe is completely different. So I just want to put that out there, because I know that a lot of people, when I said I was doing this review, were sending me messages on my Instagram saying, why are you still watching this show? It's bad. And I'm like, I look at it differently. I separate it. Yes, it's upsetting, but at the same time, it is its own entity and it's a different thing. So that's how I have to do it. It's how I do it in my comic book stuff. It's how I'm doing it with this. So that's my little disclaimer. So, but Flora does come. We do meet her. She's also an Earth fairy. So basically, very similar abilities to Tara. Only Tara basically is kind of shown more because she's in the main. Right now, she's in the main cast. She's basically in the main group of girls, and Tara and Flora is kind of like the newbie. So there's an initiation period, and honestly, I really am digging Flora. She actually is on a Netflix show where she plays a genius, and I can't remember the name of it, but she was really funny on that show. I want to say it's Ashley Garcia, but that may be wrong, but it's the same actress. But I really, really like her, and I love her in this role. I think that her version of Flora is very likable and completely contrasts Tara, who, Lord forbid, is a queer woman. I don't mean to put another woman down, but Tara was really getting on my nerves this season. She was so jealous of Flora's ability to make friends and fit into different circles that she feels she can't fit into. All of these things were like leading up to her big revelation that she's gay, which I don't know. And I'm playing devil's advocate. I don't know if they did this because that was the original plan for her all along, or if they did that because they were trying to get people to like her more. by giving her another element people can identify with, and that by making her a lesbian. Because she was so scrutinized last season for being cast in what should have been Flora's role. I'm just kind of throwing that out there, but yeah, that to me, having Tara have that, was and it's fine, was just really interesting, but her personality, I don't know what it is, but she bitches all the time. It just really grates my nerve. That character grates my nerves. I'm sorry, she really does, and it has nothing to do with the controversy or anything. It's just her in general. She really grates my nerves. She's always complaining about something. She's always like, it's good to be outspoken, but come on. So her interactions with Flora were very interesting this season. Like I felt really bad for Flora majority of the time until there's a point in the season where, you know, Flora calls her out. She's like, "You're jealous," you know, and and she's like, you know, "What?" If you, and of course, you know, Tara's offended. She's like, "Well, if you think that way, why are we even friends?" And Flora's like, "Good question," and walks away. And I'm like, "Thank you." Somebody needed to do that to her this season because she has been in her feelings this whole season, and it's been weird. But I will say, she does have a crush on a female specialist that they introduce, and it looks like it's reciprocated, and of course it is because we see at the end that they are together. But one thing I have to call out, guys, and this is across the board, cheating is just a thing, guys. Like literally, when Tara has the you know pretty much courage to tell this girl that she likes her and pretty much almost ask her out, the girl's like, "Oh, I got back with my ex-girlfriend Jessica." And then next thing you know, fast forward, Tara and her together. So I'm like, I'm hoping there's a period where she broke up with this girl first and didn't just jump into this relationship. I don't know. But you know how it is. You know, the big stereotype for us queer people, it's all U-Haul from here. So I don't know. Just putting that on there. It's not really important to the story, but I just wanted to get it out of the way. All right. So some new characters that we're introduced to. Sebastian. he Sebastian is a great character. Sebastian, he's supposed to be friends with Silva. They were supposed to be like schoolmates. So he runs this shop that Silva goes to hide at. Because remember last season that you know they basically were arresting him, and I'm guessing Queen Luna was about to do something to him. I don't know what's happening, but the specialists were escorting him. I'm assuming to prison. And of course, our girls bust him out. They do magical interventions to allow him to get himself free to escape. He doesn't go unscathed. He does get shot in the back by an arrow, but he still essentially is able to escape. And then he goes to Sebastian's shop, and again, they were like, they're just supposed to be these friends that he's known this person forever, and they both have this hate for Andreas because Andreas, I guess, in school was a bully. It wasn't until later on that we realized that Sebastian is a blood witch. Not only is he a blood witch, he's basically one of the heads of the blood witch covens that are left, and he's a survivor of Asterdell. So like his parents were essentially killed when Rosalind and and all of them, Andreas and everybody attacked Asterdell, essentially killing all the families there. Because they had Bloom and Beatrix, and they were saving them, but really Rosalind was using it as basically motivation to take out this entire city or village, whatever, because she wants to go to war with the Blood Witches. And so she's very interesting. And Sebastian is a very interesting character because he's not the problem that I have is you can't fully hate Sebastian because he's actually not 100% wrong. So that's the problem. He's doing things that a terrorist would technically do by attacking the fairies, draining them of their magic, because his ideal is he wants to drain all of these fairies and take all of the magic that they possibly can, or he possibly can, because he has a plan, and we'll get into that plan in a minute. So he's just a very likable character. And for a long time in the season, because he was hiding Silva, Bloom and everyone trusts him. So that, Bloom's like, telling him what's going on, and going to him for advice. And they were researching different symbols to try and figure out what's happening, trying to figure out what Rosalind is up to. There's so many things he was helping them with, but what they don't realize is they were actually helping him further his agenda. And of course, that's the way it is in these shows. You have to have that one character that is actually the antagonist, and you don't realize it until it's almost too late. There are also these creatures. I can't remember the name of them. They look like little, like Aubrey 2, Little Shop of Horror face huggers. That's what I'm calling them. I'm gonna call them plant huggers. That's what I'm gonna call them now. They probably have a name. I don't remember what they are, but they are creepy as hell. And like if they bite you, it drains your magic. So your magic is essentially either temporarily gone or permanently gone. And I think the only way to stop it is to kill Sebastian. You get your powers back when Sebastian dies. Now Sebastian is hardcore. Sebastian was letting these things like literally feed on him. Like that is how badass Sebastian is. So yeah, we're introduced to them. They cause a lot of problems through this story. They attack random fairies. They get released into all of Althea, and like Flora has to sacrifice herself. Technically, she planned on sacrificing herself. And basically attracting all of them to her, where they would only attack her so that the specialists and of course Bloom and the others can infiltrate the school. And it's kind of messed up. It left a huge scar like on her, like right below her collarbone, that she's very, very sensitive about, because she's one of those laid back characters and it doesn't seem like things bother her. She kind of rolls with the punches. But in the credit scene, like a post credit scene when they were all like showing what everybody was doing at the end of the series or season, should I say, she was looking at it in the mirror and very depressed. So I think that it is something she's internalizing. But that's a whole other thing. So it's going to be interesting if we have a season 3 to see Flora's journey in season 3, because I think we're going to get a lot more of her, since she was kind of like a side character, but still in with the girls and very instrumental in helping them. Yeah, I feel like we're going to see more of her in season 3. Beatrix. Now we already know she's a hybrid of 3 characters in Winx, but what's interesting is that she goes through a completely weird journey this season. So like she at one point she feels completely alone because Andreas, who is her father figure, he's up Rosalind's butt, and she's kind of like the odd man out. No one, Rosalind doesn't trust her. She's not telling her anything about her plans. So she's already in her feelings. And so she bonds with Stella. And the reason she bonds with Stella is because Stella's mother, who is sadistic as hell, decides to get this gem, and she puts it on, she basically makes Rosalind put it on Stella's back. And what this gem does is it prevents Stella from not being able to leave school grounds, and she's not able to use her invisibility power. And so she's essentially a trapped or caged princess. She's Rapunzel basically in the school without the hair. And so she's going through that, and then she's also going through the fact that she's still very much into Sky, and she's having to watch Sky getting on with Blossom or with Bloom all the time. So she's like in her feelings, and Beatrix again is alone. Her father figure is not really paying attention to her. She doesn't really have a lot going on other than her Dane and Riven threesome that seems to bring her happiness and joy, but that falls apart. And so her and Stella become really close. So her journey is just an interesting one in that she's trying to be a better person, but she's also trying to be a survivor, I guess. And so at one point, Sebastian has her kidnapped, and she is bitten by the plant huggers. And so her powers are quote unquote gone. And so she feels defenseless and she doesn't know what to do. And see, when you lose your powers, you're kind of regulated to being a janitorial staff member, I guess. You run errands and you clean the school in order to stay there. You have to earn your keep through cleaning. The same thing happens with Musa, because Musa's abilities, her emotion abilities were so pretty much advanced, or her mind abilities. She was sent on a mission, or she volunteered to go on a mission with Sky and the others, but it was kind of a trap. And so she didn't get bitten, actually. What happened is she went and hid, and she managed to fight one off, but she let it bite her because she was so tired of being an empath and feeling other people's stuff that she wanted her powers taken away, which is interesting. That's not something that you would think one of the fairies would want to do. But again, Musa's powers are completely different in this version, so it makes sense. She wasn't an empath in the cartoon. This brings me to, let me finish my Beatrix thing, and then we'll go into Musa, because something happens there that's very close to the cartoon, at least in my opinion. But we'll get to that. So, yeah, Beatrix goes through the journey. She ends up double crossing them and working for Sebastian, basically to get her power back. And she also wanted to see what was happening. And so they found this like book that translates all these symbols. Bloom found it earlier on with Sky at his childhood home where they got it on because they needed to be somewhere where they could get it on, right? Can be on school grounds. Um, and this book was used as leverage. Like Bloom was going to trade it to Sebastian for information, and of course, every villain in this at all times tries to tell Bloom, I know who your parents are. I know where you're really from. I know. So do you want to know that? Or do you want to do this? Or do you want to know that? Or do you want to do It's always like, do you want to know who your parents are and where you come from? Or do you want your friends to get their powers back? Or do you want to know what happened to Downing? Or do you want to, it's always that leverage thing that's kind of irritating at this point. And of course she wants to know, but she got that moral obligation of being a friend. So yeah, so she's always like trading it. But Beatrix sees the book, basically. Sebastian has it. And so she goes to get it. And she tries to warn Stella. She's like, he's planning on opening this portal to like this realm of darkness, and you might want to stop it. Even if you have to kill Sky. And of course, Bloom's not going to do that. And so she's like, Stella, I'm telling you, it's literally him or everybody else. And so, long story short, Beatrix goes there and because she has her powers back, of course, because she made this deal with Sebastian. And she also made it in exchange for information. So she got her power back and she got information. I don't know how she got this double deal, but we'll go with that. And she ends up using her electricity power to fry Sky, essentially breaking the connection. But she ends up getting killed in the process. Now, it was revealed earlier to Stella when Stella was realizing that she was playing both sides as a double agent, that the reason she even talked to Sebastian was because she has sisters. And there are 2 names on that paper. I tried to do a screenshot or like screen capture it. I couldn't make them out. And I have theories on who they're supposed to be because, again, Beatrix is a hybrid of characters. So I think they're just resplitting these characters and just renaming them something else, or keeping the names of these 2 characters and they're going to be her sisters. I don't know. It's like they're incorporating some of the cartoon into this universe. But yeah, Beatrix has sisters. And we're not sure if she's officially dead because there is like that ghost creature at the end that was like over her grave. I don't know what's going on with that. So we'll see. But yeah, so Beatrix, again, she was a double agent this season. She was not as unlikable as she was in season 1, but I am very glad that her, Dane, and Riven are over because it really was irritating me. Like, I'm not trying to judge. I don't care about polyamory. It's just they got on my nerves. I don't know what it is, but they got on my nerves. Now, speaking of Musa, when she lost her powers, she goes into this whole happy to be cleaning, happy to not be a fairy technically anymore. Tara is like obsessed with getting her powers back to the point where they get like this conversion crystal from Stella's mom, and they are channeling all their magic into it, which kind of makes it a little messed up for Bloom a little bit, later on in terms of controlling her rage and her power, which leads to something which we'll talk about. But Musa doesn't want her powers back, and Riven knows it. As a matter of fact, Riven was the one that took her out when they were being attacked, and he watched her literally let herself be bitten. He tried to prevent it, but he got overwhelmed when he was fighting. And this is where we get our Riven and Musa. So Sam, who is Tara's brother, he was in his feelings because he found out his dad was working for Rosalind to keep them safe and was pretty much doing whatever she said, no matter how shady. He basically was hyped up because Musa was using her powers initially on him to calm him down all the time. But what she was really doing was building up his rage and not realizing it, because when he wasn't expressing this rage, it was making him angrier and angrier to the point where he was having homicidal tendencies. And so he planned to kill Rosalind during this like kind of voting party they were going where they were going to vote her in and officially as headmaster or headmistress. And so he got caught, and basically Tara's father and brother had to leave the school, which left the door open for Musa to have a new love, hence her relationship with Riven, which we know if you watch the cartoon has always been off and on toxic. So it looks like they're starting to do that. They're starting to push the whole Riven and Musa thing, them being together. He starts training her as a specialist or co-training her. And they start hanging out a lot. He hangs out a little bit with Flora too, but it does look like Musa and Riven are going to be the ones that are going to be an item just like they are in the cartoon. We did see a moment with them in season 1, but we saw a lot more of it in season 2. So that seems to be happening. Where that's gonna go in season 3 is anybody's guess, but since he is done with Beatrix and Dane had to have his subtle letdown, I will respect that Riven was not a jerk to him. He's like, "I'm just trying to tell you, you knew that this was a threesome thing. It was a polyamorous thing. I wasn't into you. This was just us blowing off steam, having fun." And Dane was just really into Riven. So, it's bad, but then I think about how he treated Tara in season 1, and I'm like, "Well, you reap what you sow, I guess." Um, but yeah, so all of that happened, and so I kind of feel like that's gonna be like the key for in relationships. It looks like a lot of people are getting into interesting relationships. And speaking of relationships, this season, our girl Aisha got herself a man, which is so interesting because she is so school focused. And we learn why. Her parents are basically own this company that provides energy throughout the entire kingdom or land or whatever you want to call it, a realm, basically. And they wanted her to do the same, but she wanted to be in academia. So she chose to come to the school. And so she's always hyper focused on proving that she can do it and that she can be successful at it. So her parents won't think that she's just playing around and then eventually say, okay, you had your fun, now come back and run our family business. But she meets this specialist named Gray. And Gray is kind of like a hybrid between Nabu and Nex, her two lovers in Winx. More towards Nex though. They have the same interests. I mean, everything about them is the same. Now, I don't know how real it is because we learn later on through Queen Luna, which is really messed up how Stella's mother actually, announced that. It was during the trial of Bloom, which we'll talk about in a sec. But she's like, "Did you know your boyfriend was a blood witch?" I'm like, "No, I didn't happen to know that." But it's really sad because they really were into each other. They're just like Romeo and Juliet. They're on opposite sides. He's a blood witch. She's a fairy. I don't think this relationship is going to end because he does come back and help a little bit at the end of the season, when Sebastian's trying to open the realm and do what he's doing. But it just kind of felt like I felt really bad because the way she was talking, she's like, "You're my first love, the first person I kissed, and I regret it. I regret it was you." I felt so bad for Aisha in this, but I was also happy that she got to have a relationship because, it's my girl. She's like the second most powerful one there. So, Bloom is like the OP, but she's like literally, if Bloom didn't have the dragon flame, Aisha could probably give her a run for her money. But that's just me. But yeah, so Gray and Aisha, question mark, what's gonna happen in season 3 if we have it, if we get a season 3. So Sebastian's plan, as I said earlier, was he wants to take the dragon flame from Bloom. He wants her to give him the dragon flame, and he's just gonna basically wipe out the fairies. It's almost like he doesn't really want to wipe it. He wants to just take out he wants to take out what's not going to start a war with the blood witches. He wants to keep the blood witches safe. And he figures if he can open this portal, even though it may destroy a few fairies, essentially it's endgame. Like I said, I guess when you lost everything and you just like literally go crazy, that's what happens. And since he did go to school with Silva and Andreas was a bully and an asshole to him, it probably fueled him more, to just take him out. So he has no real loyalty to the school. Obviously, he's not loyal to the fairies. And to be fair, again, what's so interesting is he's not wrong because something happens with Bloom. She goes to meet Sebastian to try and trade the book for information on how to get Musa's powers back. She basically gets more than she bargains for because he lets her know that Rosalind killed Downing. And so she can't control her powers right now. They're completely off because of the conversion crystal. They all realized that their powers were acting wonky and they didn't have full control. And that's dangerous for her because she also has the dragon flame in her. So she goes back to school and she goes to the area they normally train at, which is like the graveyard, whatever area. And Rosalind is sitting there waiting on her. And she starts talking crap to her. And she's like, "Did you kill her? Where did you kill her? Right here, blah, blah, blah." And Rosalind's like, "Oh, a little to the left." And so she starts talking crap. So Rosalind starts like freezing her. And Bloom breaks out of it, and then she literally completely obliterates her. Like, she's ash just floating around. She kills her. Um, and unfortunately, that opens a can of a lot of shit. So, she ends up basically having to go on trial with Stella pretty much as her representative because she doesn't know how the law works in their realm. And unfortunately, it doesn't go well. Aisha comes in as a character witness, and that's when it's revealed that her boyfriend is a blood witch, so she gets sent away. And then, of course, the queen's like, "You don't have any proof." Ta Tara and Flora are in the graveyard trying to find Nonning's body, but they can't find it. But they do find that this little, it looks like a big brown dirt egg with like plants sticking out of it. It's weird. But so Flora ends up taking it back because they love plants, but they can't find any proof that Rosalind killed Downing, and so therefore they can't prove that Bloom is not dangerous. And so the queen says she's going to put her in stasis, and Bloom goes willingly because she feels so guilty that she murdered somebody and she lost control, that she doesn't feel worthy of being, I guess, alive at this point. So she gets frozen, and later on, we see that Flora is sitting there she has this plant on her desk and she keeps making it come back to life and it keeps dying. And she realizes that there's like that thing she picked up in the graveyard is actually sprouting. And what happened was, right before Downing was killed, she put her essence into nature, and that her soul, I guess, or her spirit, afterlife spirit, whatever you want to call it, is like in nature and is able to be channeled through that. So she's able to come back for a little while. And there's like this really emotional scene where her and Bloom hug each other and they're talking, and it's so sweet. But the reviewer in me was like, why the hell did you waste that on that? Why couldn't you take her to the damn trial? Like, take her to the queen, take her somewhere. It's like, yeah, that bitch killed me. I mean, why? But you know what? That's fine. I suspend my disbelief once again. It was a really nice scene though. It was. But she had to move on, and of course they're back to square one because at this point Bloom's still a fugitive. They can't find her, and on top of that, Sebastian's attacking the school. So that whole thing was insane. The whole fight was insane. Like, what got me the most, and I guess got me a little in my feelings because I started channeling some of the people that love the cartoon, is when they all got their fairy wings. They learned how to, pretty much evolve or adapt their powers or have an evolution of power, and they grew their fairy wings, and we see all of them. When Tara grew hers, and they didn't include Flora, it was hard. I'm like, what? Flora! I mean, even the vines that wrap around her arms look like the cartoon. I was just like, oh, Flora, they really did you dirty, girl. It's one thing to include you. It's another thing to not include you in the evolution of fairy wings. So I was a little in my feelings about that. But they were able to use that. So essentially, all of the girls came together like Captain Planet and defeated Sebastian. I mean, they did. I'm not gonna lie to you. And that essentially, because unfortunately, Bloom at that point had drained most of her ability to harness the dragon flame and use her powers, but she was able to channel a little bit and then help them. But if those girls hadn't been there, I think that Bloom would have lost. So at the end of the battle, though, Bloom is like writing letters to everybody. Everybody's like, kind of healing together, and school's healing together. And she decides she's gonna go away because she kept having visions of like this tower. It looked like a castle or a lighthouse, and like in this like really desolate area. And she basically goes to this portal that was left open by Sebastian to the realm of darkness, and she's gonna go through it. And then her and Sky have like this like lovey-dovey moment where he's upset, where he's like, "You're leaving me. You just left me a damn letter." And she's like, "Yeah, I gotta go. I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah." And remember, the realm apparently can only be closed by someone from the inside. So she goes through it, and then she walks up to this lighthouse, and then there's a woman in there, or we know it's her mom. Come on, we know it's her mother. It's either her mother or her older sister. If they keep to the cartoon, it's her older sister. But I mean, we'll see. Because what they revealed in this version is that Bloom's 1,000 years old. Her mother was the original, wielder of the dragon, well, technically the dragon wave, and then she had her, and she put her own baby in suspension for 1,000 years, which is interesting because remember, she was reborn into the stillborn fetus of her current parents, which is different from the cartoon because Bloom was adopted. So, same parents, different story, different universe, multiverse. But, so this one, technically, it would have made her biologically their child because she was in the body of the baby that would have survived had she not taken its place. And then that's a whole other conversation. So, yeah, she's 1,000 years old. She's apparently the child of the previous dragon, technically, technically. Um, so I don't know who that is. But I always think when they make decisions like this, I'm like, do they realize they need drinking water and food? She's gonna be over on this other side of the room. What are you gonna eat? What are you gonna You're all alone. You don't know anyone's in there. You could be sitting there talking to yourself for eternity. So yeah, Bloom is she's a character that makes very drastic decisions, and she does it. I mean, she does it without actually thinking about consequences all the time. I think that's probably why this version of her gets on my nerves so much. But I don't know. I don't know. It's The season for me was not bad. I know that, my daughter was looking at some reviews. I don't look at reviews. And she was telling me a lot of people had a lot of problems with this. But I mean, I just separate it from the cartoon. I have to. I would never be able to. I couldn't watch half of the things that I watch if I didn't separate it. So for me, it's just like what I do with DCU, MCU, and all these other properties. I have to separate the universes for me to actually take it seriously and to give it a chance. And it was engaging. It really was. I mean, these girls are very good actors because they keep me engaged every episode. So that is a thing. But now we're left for season 3. Like, what's gonna happen? There's so many like open-ended things now. Like, what the hell is happening in the graveyard? These like black shadowy figures, like silhouetted creatures, are like appearing everywhere. And my theory is that when she closed, like literally closed, the entrance or the portal to the other side, that all the things that were over there came through before she closed it completely because it had a chance to because it was sitting in the basement and nobody actually thought, hey, maybe we need to do something about this. Like they were just like everybody in the school was like literally leaving this portal open. And I'm like, that's weird. Like, with no guards, nothing to see if anything can come through the portal. I'm like, isn't there like security? I mean, I'm confused here. I don't understand. So there's that. That's something I'm always trying to suspend my disbelief, but guys, it's like sometimes the things are a little stupid, so I have to call it out. And that was pretty stupid to me. So just me though, just me. Okay, I'm going to start on some questions I do see. Because the original vessel of the Dragon Flame was Daphne. Yep. And she passed it on, or should I say transferred to Bloom in fear of the ancestral witch. Yes, because that's how she's the one that initially took her sister to Earth. So yeah, that is very true. And will Flora and Musa get wings? I know. It wasn't as hard for me with Musa because Musa doesn't have her music power, like the sound wave power. She's like the empath. So, I mean, and I get it. I still should be like, Musa, you should have got your wings, girl. But she didn't have her powers. And she does get her powers in the end. I forgot that part. When they kill Sebastian, because when they take out Sebastian, everybody gets their powers back that is still alive that had their powers drained. So she got her powers back. And she seemed okay with it at that point. But again, I don't know why. That's probably a season 3 question. Because as far as I'm concerned, if you willingly let these things bite you to take your power away, you don't want your powers. And I know it being an empath is very hard. If you want to know how hard being an empath is, besides reading X-Men comics, check out Life is Strange: True Colors. It'll show you perspective. But at the same time, that's what you are. You're a mind fairy. I mean, it's a thing. But I do think that she should have got her wings. She should have got her wings. That's kind of messed up. Will Beatrix return? I think so. And I think we're probably going to find, or at least have more references to her sisters. So I'm cool with that. I am cool with that. Now I will go back down to what Nicholas was saying about her sister. I don't know why, and it probably is her mother, but it would be so cool if it was actually her sister that was in the realm, that was stirring the pot or cooking, whatever the hell she was doing. I think it'd be cool if it was actually her sister, and that really, like, gives us more story on what actually happened 1,000 years ago. Because essentially, it's very odd for me because all the girls, are princesses, and for the most part, almost all of them are princesses and Winx. And they all have different roles, in this one. Like when Bloom was talking about how entitled and princessy Stella is, it's really funny to me, considering, technically she was a princess too. But in this version, we don't know what the hell Bloom is. She's 1,000 years old, was basically put in stasis for 1,000 years as a baby, I guess, and then somehow, was reborn or her soul was put into the still fetus of her now current parents, in the first, world. So it's interesting. It's very interesting. If we do get a season 3, how long do you think Bloom are going to be separated from the rest of the group? That is a good question. They like doing that. They like building up the drama. But it depends. If they only have 7 episodes, it can't be long. I mean, it can't be long. So maybe an episode or 2, probably. I really can't see her just being in that realm the entire time, honestly. There's something that's gonna happen. Like those creatures that they're dark shadow creatures or whatever that are over in the other realm, in the Althea realm, they're not supposed to be there. I'm pretty sure they're from, the dark realm. So she's probably gonna have to come back, maybe even with her mother, to try and get those creatures back into that realm. And then the mother will have to separate from her probably, because that's how it always goes, right? I got my mother back, and she's like, "Well, I gotta go back here and safeguard this realm and make sure the creatures don't get out again." You know? "Love you, bye." I think that's what's probably gonna happen. I believe it was confirmed or, it was her mom, and the counter to the dragon flame is now in Althea because Bloom went to the dark realm. Yeah, I absolutely see that. Absolutely see that being a thing. So is Daphne gonna be Mother in this universe? Probably. Now that's another thing I'm wondering if they're gonna name her Mother Daphne, combining the sister and the mother, which I mean, it wouldn't be the first time. Hashtag Beatrix. So we'll see. The fairies are so powerful at this point with no counter. Why even be in a separate realm? In the cartoon, there was so many counter magical groups. Yep, it made sense, but here it doesn't. Yeah, I actually threat-wise, I actually agree with that. I really do. I mean, I don't foresee well, I say that, but you know what? They need to have more material for if they get more seasons. So, they probably are gonna have more, rival magical groups because they need someone and they need to have some kind of drama in their lives, I mean, to be honest with you. So, I don't know. It's just weird where the specialists are combined because, like, how hard was it to introduce, Helios or Brandon or anybody else, you know? I'm really missing Tecna. Honestly, Tara could have been Tecna, and then they could have had Flora from the jump, and then it would have made sense. You know what I mean? Like, no hate on Tara. Again, I know she's our queer representation, her coming out as gay, as novelty, whatever. I'm queer. I respect it. I get it. The journey, blah, blah, blah. But she could have been Tecna. And they could have had Timmy, and they could have had Brandon, and you know what I mean? They could have had all these other people besides just Sky and Riven. It's really weird. I would rather have seen that than the threesomes that we've gotten with Riven and Dane and Beatrix, which is just pointless to me, again. Guy, I don't know. I don't know what they think sometimes in these writer rooms. It's weird. Um, I don't know if she thought, to be a witness and let everyone know Bloom was innocent. Who? Did I miss something? I don't know if she thought to be a witness and oh, you mean Downing? Like, I don't know why they didn't do that, it just makes I feel like the girls okay, this is just gonna be me, okay? This is real talk. This is Maria talking here. Sometimes I feel like the girls have 0 common sense. Like, legitly 0 common sense. Like, I don't know why you thought it was a good idea to have Downing just come and do that one act of letting Bloom out of stasis and then having this little sentimental sweet moment. And she's like, "Well, now I've got to fade away." But nobody knows your truth because you weren't there to tell it. Like, you could have literally been like, "Hey, look, it's Downing. She's got something to say. Yeah, Rosalind killed me. By the way, love you, Bloom. Girls, be yourselves. I believe in you." And then fade away. You didn't have to have this whole extended period of time where she could have been clearing Bloom's name. You know what I mean? I feel like that's stupid. It's really hard for me. But again, I like to practice critical thinking, so that's probably why. But as whatever. Whatever. I do hope Gray that Gray's sticks around, sorry, even if not in a romantic mode. If you see me like stumbling over what I'm reading, the text is this big. I'm on my MacBook Air, so um love it. Love my M1. Doesn't have a fan. Great for voiceovers. Shitty for reading, which is why I have this huge monitor on the side, but then I can't face my camera when I'm on live streams. So I'm always looking over here. So I'm trying to struggle through this tiny writing here. I do hope Gray sticks around, even if not in a romantic role. It would be cool to have a Blood Witch on their side. I love it. I want to know more about the Blood Witches. They look so laid back. When they showed it, it looked like they were all at like an internet cafe. Everybody had a Starbucks. I don't know what the hell was happening, but I mean, it would look really cool. Like they villainize the Blood Witches, because remember when Rosalind got killed, instead of the Queen announcing that Bloom was the suspect, she blamed it on the Blood Witches. So Sebastian is not 100% wrong when he says that they're being, pretty much discriminated against by the fairy world, because it's true. Fairies versus Blood Witches. It is a thing. It's interesting, actually. Did Legend of Avatar get a check? Because I bet. Oh, because I'd be damned if they're not blood and psychic bending. Oh, yeah. You know what? That's true. Blood bending. Because what did they say? The Blood Witches control blood and tissue and muscle? Because they do. We saw it. Because we saw it with Andreas, and Sky had to kill Andreas because he was going to kill Silva. I didn't talk a lot about Sky and Silva's relationship because it's always been dysfunctional, since season 1. And Sky was in his feelings a lot about Silva, not trusting him because he thought that was his dad. Or at least, he had all of these thoughts about Silva, and he basically, his role model, kind of let him down. And so he was in his feelings a lot with Silva. But at the end of the day, his bio dad was about to kill Silva because he was being controlled by the Blood Witch, and Sky was the one that killed his dad. And there was no inquiry around that. Sky did not have there was no moment where Sky was like, oh, I'm going to have to go on trial and be put in stasis for murder. Like Bloom. But to be fair, it was just another way to blame the Blood Witches for something. And Rosalind was completely there for that. So that makes sense. But that whole, their whole relationship is interesting. I will say the only reason Silva got caught again, though, is he escaped and he was with Sebastian, and then he went back and hid in Sky's dorm room. How stupid is that? That's pretty stupid. Now, props to Riven. Riven did see some of the magic that was being used, and he put 2 and 2 together, and he knew it was Bloom's group that was helping him escape, and he didn't say anything. So that's what I'm saying. You know how Riven had that whole assholey arc in the cartoon, and then he fell in love with Musa, and then did this whole 180. It's kind of similar. He was all hung up on the girls and Winx on the bad side, which the girls who would be Beatrix in the cartoon, and now he's back basically up Musa's skirt. So it makes perfect sense. The only thing that I think they did that was really cool with Musa is they gave her pretty cool fighting skills. She got to train as a specialist for 24 hours, so now she's able to be Buffy. I don't know. I'm just gonna leave that alone. I'm gonna leave it alone. Probably Blood Witches, but I wonder what this means for Nabu and potentially there. I mean, we already have Nex, and Nex came after Nabu. I don't think we're going to get Nabu. If they do, it's completely out of order because I'm considering Gray to be Nex, and Nabu is just non-existent, I guess. Because I mean, to be fair, the only reason Nabu came to Althea was to see what his future wife was going to be like, because he was in an engagement. Their parents betrothed them when they were babies, so he never even saw Aisha or Layla if you watch the dub or the remake. But and then seeing his fiance and proposing to her, that was his main thing, and then he ends up dying. So I don't know if they wanted to just go with that storyline or what. I'm glad in a way they didn't introduce Nabu, because it would have been really sad if they kept that whole death thing, thing in his future. I mean, it basically is, how much can we torture Aisha in this series? So I don't know. That's just me. I only want Nabu there if they're going to let him live, basically, is what I'm saying. Do you think we will get the witches from the cartoon series in the Netflix version, or will it just be the blood witches? I don't know. That is a good question. Like I said, they're doing their own thing. They could create an entirely different race for this series of magical creatures to fight going forward. We know they're gonna have to take out things that are coming through the realm of darkness. I mean, yeah. It doesn't matter if they're counters or not. I know that we're gonna have whatever they can pop out of their head, because the plant huggers, that was nasty. Like, nobody wanted that. Nobody wanted that. I didn't want to see that. Mm-mm. Musa was annoying this season, and her trying to be a specialist overnight was also offensive. Yep, to the specialist class. Yeah. Well, Riven called her out on it. He's like, "We've been training our whole lives for this, and you came in and wanted to do it overnight." And then he beat her. He knocked her ass down. So she got the point. But I mean, at least she learned a little bit so she could save Flora. So that was cool. But yeah, I give it that. But I'm gonna tell you, the character that really irked me besides Bloom, because Bloom was getting on my nerves a lot this season, was Tara. I can't help it. Tara was like just bitching all the time. She was angry all the time, annoyed all the time. So at some point, it's like, okay, I know people made you feel bad about yourself. I know people cheat. You know, like the whole thing with Dame was effed up, and you kissed Riven, and Riven pretty much ignored you. That's messed up. But then you're like, and then I realized I was gay. I'm like, what? Okay. um. Now, to be fair, to play devil's advocate, I don't know what it's like to kiss one sex and not feel anything, because I'm pansexual. So it doesn't matter what you have down there. If I'm attracted to you, bam. But for her, if she's just saying she's completely into women and not into guys, like she said, don't you think when she kissed Riven, it should have been like, ah, you're not the flavor I like. I'm like, I'm gonna go over here. Like, it wouldn't be River, then Dane, then. But I mean, that's me being weird and judgmental, and I'm trying to be open minded. So I guess technically everybody has their own journey of discovery, and maybe she just cocooned herself so far into the closet that she just imagined that she had these emotions and feelings. I don't know. Just something I thought about. I don't know, guys. Flora is literally the MVP of the season. Yep, she is absolutely MVP. Not only did she sacrifice herself to save the school and her friends, she refused to give up and solve the Downing situation. Overall, she was a good character. She was a great character. Tara was so nasty to her, guys. Tara was saying, like, she was like, "Why are you always checking my work?" She said, "Because you always need to be checked." And I'm like, wow. When she's like, "Why are we friends?" I'm like, "Bitch, why are we friends? When you talk to me like that, I'm like, I gave you a few, in episode 2, I gave you some slack. This is episode 4, bitch. You need to get your shit together." That's how I feel about that. She was whole ass getting on my nerves this season. It was bad. So restricted barrier gems are a thing, huh? I wonder if more crazy or insane parents use this method towards other children. True. And then why didn't they use it on Bloom? Like, why didn't they just say, "Well, we're going to put this on you. You can't leave school grounds. You can't." Hell, they should have put one on her anyway, as much as she fucking sneaks off. like, "We're tired of you leaving school grounds. Barrier." So, yeah, it is a thing. So is Techna going to be an air fairy? I don't know. Like, I guess there are no technology fairies? That sucks. I don't know. I guess that just, I don't know. I feel like they could have incorporated that, honestly. I miss Techna. And again, I do know this is a completely different series, it's a multiverse, difference of Winx and this show. But I mean, just imagine how cool it would have been to have Techna in it. Like, and then I would have literally made Tara the Techna character, and then have Flora be the only Earth, fairy. That's what I would have done. I love watching her eyes grow green and like the actual vines wrap around her, because it's so reminiscent of Flora in the cartoon. So even though they are essentially not the same character in a way, they essentially still are. And I really feel like having 2 Earth fairies is going to be very interesting, because they're always going to outshine each other. You know what I mean? Or try to outshine each other, because they have the exact same power and they're both on the same team. So you've got a team technically of girls with 2 Earth fairies on it. And it's strange, So I would have been like, I literally would have been like, if I was doing this, if I wanted to fix it, I would have Tara be bitten by the plant huggers, and then she tries to get her power back, and she ends up becoming a technopath or something like that, a techno fairy, or technology fairy. And I think that would have been really cool. So instead of her, being Tekna, she'd be Terra. I don't know. That's just me. Am I crazy? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe I will. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I'm trying to scroll up, guys. Was it just me who thought Sebastian and Silver were low key together? Because there was some elements. Yeah, it did seem like they had like a whole bromance thing going on. Yeah, I agree with that. I love how he's like, I didn't really care about my friends, but there's one in particular that's going to be upset, and he's talking about Silva. Yeah, yeah, I think that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they would ever say it though. You know what I mean? I mean, we already have one queer character. I don't know if it's in the budget to say that more people are queer. I'm like, seems like they have to have budget for that. Let's see. Sorry, guys. Trying to find ones I can read. What if Gray is going to be the catalyst in learning some blood magic, since this and potentially next season is heading towards darker routes? Yeah, so like, I mean, Aisha is the fairy of fluids, yeah. Which also means, doesn't that mean she can also bloodbend? Because blood's a liquid. Just throwing it out there. I would actually really love to see what that would be like. Could you imagine the child between a blood witch and the fairy of fluids? Oh, that would be OP as hell. That would be OP. How did you feel about the writers handling Tara's coming out story? I thought it was well handled, and I thought the hug between the girls was nice. So again, as a queer woman, I always support coming out stories. I don't think there's necessarily a bad take because everybody's coming out is different. My only comment and point that I made earlier was I hope they didn't capitalize on that because they were trying to make Tara more likable because they cast her last season instead of giving us Flora originally. And she got a lot of hate. She got a lot of hate from people on Twitter and everywhere because they considered her the whitewashed character because she was the actress that took a Hispanic role in the series. And so I wonder if that was their way of making her more agreeable to people by making her queer. So that she'll have the LGBTQ plus backing, which again, I guess is pretty smart. But if they did it because of that, that's kind of, effed up. But if that was always the plan to make her queer, I'm cool with that. I just wish that that's something they would have done last season. I think for me, it would have made more sense to have her at the end be like, I don't need Dane. I don't need Riven. I'm actually into girls. And then have her flirting with this girl, this season. That's how I would have done it. Because right now, if I were playing devil's advocate, I could say a lot of people could take that as they only made her queer to get brownie points. Just the thing. But in terms of how they handle it, I love that. I love how Flora reacted to it. I love how the girls reacted to it later on when she came out to them. I thought it was amazing, and remember, they're in another realm. So, I mean, I don't really know how, because I guess if we don't know a lot about how sexuality is handled in that realm, is it looked down upon or whatever? Because the way she was acting, it seemed like it was taboo. I don't know. We don't know enough about Althea in this version to know how people truly feel about that. I don't know. I do feel bad for Jessica, the girl's girlfriend that she just got back together with. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. Yes, Winx multiverse. It's true. It is absolutely a Winx multiverse. And my baby Aisha, she didn't deserve, the toxic relationship with Gray, because in the beginning it was so sweet. But what if he's just snapped in anger, but things don't go his way and tries her? Oh, do you mean if he gets anger management or whatever? I think no. It's very evident that Gray is into her. Like, that is without a doubt 100% true. And the reason I'm saying that is we saw how he controlled a specialist when he was going to be reported. He could have done the same to those girls when, they came in, Aisha leading the charge, saying, we're coming into the school. And he's like, I can't let you do that. And she's like, she starts going on that tangent. He could have stopped them, and he didn't, because he likes her. Had he not liked her, they probably would have had a fight out of him. But because he is into her, he let her go. He let her pass. Even though it could ruin the plans, he let her in. So take that as you may. That is proof that Gray has feelings. So are we going to dive into bisexual Stella? Because I would be so here for this. At first, I thought her and Beatrix were going to be a thing. I don't know why. I mean, I saw the signs of Tara looking at that guard, the specialist, all that time, and how they were talking, interacting with each other. So I already knew that that was going to happen. But I was like, wow, Stella and Beatrix are getting very close. So I thought maybe that was going to be a thing with them. But again, I don't think they could have the two queer relationships in one show. Come on, we can't make everybody gay. I could hear that actually in my head. Even though there are tons of series that have multiple heterosexual characters, but that would have been, you could hear it. You could hear people screaming agenda from a mile away. So yeah, that's a thing. And right now, Stella is grieving her because she thinks her friend is dead. And I think Stella, because she was looking at the postie or the little note with the sisters' names, and I think she's going to go find them. That's what it looks like is going to happen. So is that dark shadow that appeared over Beatrix's grave, who that Lord Darker Dykar, since the girls kind of vaporized Sebastian's well, they did vaporize him. I had to think about that. Is going to resurrect her and attempt to manipulate Stella. Maybe. Um It's so hard because you got to feel bad for Beatrix because her father figure was Andreas and he's dead and she's all alone and she has nothing. And then she found out she had sisters and I was so sad when she's like, I don't have anyone. And Stella's like, you had me. But then Stella, you have to understand when she came to talk to you with alcohol, you blew her off for your other friends. So I kind of can see it from both ways. That there's so many, like I said, there's so many gray areas in this show. Everyone is not completely evil. And even Rosalind had points that were true. And then points where she was just like a sociopath. So, it's interesting. Can someone please knock some sense into Bloom? Because I can't keep up with her flip-flop nature when it comes to her. So I know. Like first Beatrix and then Farah and now Rosalind. Like, girl, pick up. It's because Bloom does not practice critical thinking skills. She just doesn't. She gets like a harebrained idea and she just goes and nobody can stop her. And now she's like, I'm the one that has the dragon flame. I can do this and I can do that. And you don't have this and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, Bloom, shut up. I'm like, just shut up. So yeah, like I said, she was the one that was getting on my nerves a lot too this season. It was her and Tara specifically. They were really getting on my nerves a lot. Let me scroll back down. What'd you think about Stella and the tracker that her mother put on her? And was I the only one that thought Bloom was a bit socially unaware of Stella struggling after the breakup with Sky? Because Bloom does not think about other people. I mean, I thought we understood that. Yeah, she was like, I'm going to get my friend Musa's powers back and I'll talk to Sebastian or whatever. But I mean, if you really think about it, Bloom was not up on Aisha's relationship issues. She wasn't up on what was going on with Tara. She really hadn't bonded with Flora. She was not paying attention to Stella's suffering. She wasn't paying attention to shit other than Sky and trying to figure out how to get more information and the dragon flame and basically being up of Rosalind's butt. So that is my problem with Bloom. Bloom is very, very self-absorbent. She's almost a narcissist. So completely different from the cartoon version of herself, but that is who she is as a character. Bloom is not likable to me. And I told you this last season when I did the season 1 overview. I'm not a fan of her. I think that she absolutely needs to learn humility and needs to calm down and practice active listening and critical thinking. And then maybe she can evolve to be somebody who pays attention to others. Now, I like really just put it in perspective. She was willing to let everybody die to save her man. And I know that is a hard choice. We see it through every genre of fantasy, comic books, blah, blah, blah. But she didn't hesitate. She didn't hesitate. So, like, that is a problem for me. Stella gave the vibe like, I'm tired of men other after Sky. And the actress who played Stella actually wants to be a thing after hearing this in an interview stream with the actress who plays Aisha. She wants to wait, what? She wants to be in a relationship with Aisha? Am I hearing that right, Nicholas? Or you mean and Beatrix? Aisha and Stella would be very boring as a couple. But Beatrix and Stella, I think, would be pretty good. I would be there for that. I also agree that Tara was very hard on Flora. I mean, unnecessarily. She was actually, when I say hard, she was being a bitch. I mean, that's what she was doing. Her jealousy was like literally instant. And she was that little snarky, passive aggressive bitch that I hate. I'd rather just come out and say it. You know what I mean? I'll just be like beating around the bush, saying like smart ass and like things and comments and kind of nasty little retorts to stuff, or, degrading someone because you need to feel better about yourself. I do not like that about her. So I don't like Tara. I don't. I tried. I really did. Maybe she'll grow on me in season 3, but she didn't grow on me in season 1, and she really, really didn't grow on me in season 2. So that's just me. Again, my own opinion. I love Aisha. I understand Stella. I don't mind Musa, because Musa really doesn't try and bother people. She kind of like the person that's in the. If you didn't realize that she was in the room because she's so quiet, you wouldn't. You wouldn't know she was there. So I don't mind her. I think out of everybody though, Flora is my favorite right now. Flora is my favorite character, which is kind of funny because in the actual series, Aisha and Musa are my favorite characters in the cartoon. So yeah, whatever. Kind of jumping all over the place. I feel like this show has no interest in development of her character, but Impossible season 3 is just going to be the same way. Which character are we talking about, Levi? Are we talking about Tara? Are we talking about Bloom? Because if we're talking about Bloom is not evolved at all. Like, at all. She's the same hot-headed, self-absorbed character she was in season 1. I kept getting a vibe between Stella and Beatrix. Nice to know I wasn't the only one. Yeah, I mean, we all did. Me and my spouse watched it, and we felt the same way. If they hadn't had Tara and the specialist, I think they would have made Stella and Beatrix a thing. And I would have been here for it. I really would have. Beatrix and Stella all the way as a couple. Bloom and Sky bore me, as well they should. They're like expired vanilla ice cream. I don't really feel like there's any chemistry with these actors at all. I know that sounds bad, but they don't have chemistry to me. Riven and Musa, though, I think are going to be very interesting. I don't know why. I just feel it. And I really thought that Gray and Aisha had a lot of chemistry, and they were adorable. And I really want them to get back to that. They need to work out their stuff, deal with their issues, and be the couple we all know them to be. So I'm here for that. And then make their overpowered OP children later on in life. They really just throw Sam into the void. I'm like, poor Sam. But to be fair, we only got Sam because we got Tara. They had to have a family, because there was no Tara. So if they had just brought in Flora like they were supposed to, and they made Tara a Techna, none of this shit would be happening right now. And it would be a lot more interesting. Because, yeah, Sam was pretty much the sacrificial lamb. He really was. That guy, he almost died last season, and now this season he tried to kill someone. He's been banished. So, I mean, yeah, I felt really bad for Musa. But that's why Musa wanted to give up her power. She felt really bad about what she was trying to help, and it actually made it worse. But to be fair, honestly, he was probably going to snap anyway because his dad was doing shady business, trying to keep his kids safe by doing whatever Rosalind wanted. And so he wasn't happy with it to begin with. So eventually he probably would have snapped on his own, and she doesn't get that. Let's see. Stellarics, or as I like to call them, light showers. The actress wanted a bisexual Stella. Loved the idea of Stellaric. I like that. I wonder if she's bisexual in real life. That's interesting. I feel the 6-7 episode count per season is the biggest issue with the show. Yeah, there's simply not enough time services all the characters they have. I agree. Well, okay, I agree and I don't. The only reason I'm saying this, hear me out. Peacemaker did a very good job with the limited episode run that they had. You can do a lot in 7 episodes, but they're choosing to focus on stupid shit. Like, we didn't need to have this whole Sam arc. We could have literally just had him at the beginning of the semester already go to another school. Maybe he broke up with Musa. Musa couldn't handle it or whatever, and that was her journey. Sam was already gone. We didn't need to have the whole thing with Tara's dad and brother having to be banished. That took up a lot of time that they could have used on other stuff. It's just little things like that is what I'm talking about. There's a lot of if you really just go through the episodes, there are a lot of moments you could have just pulled out. Like, I didn't get 5 Fs about Stella's drunk uncle making a fool of himself, blah, blah, blah. I did not need to see Queen Luna making these decisions based on Bloom. She could have done that in the damn, like a video chat or like whatever. It did not have to be in person. We did not have to see this whole moment of court or whatever. I know this is the only scene she was probably in the whole season, but we didn't need that. We didn't need it. There were many moments that could have been eliminated. I could care less that Bloom was in her feelings about what happened and decided to go to this cabin, this deserted cabin in the middle of the woods to sleep at night with no protection when she couldn't use her powers because she had those cuffs on. And then Sky decided to come talk to her for a minute and then sit outside and guard her all night. I don't care about that. We didn't need to see that. That didn't mean anything. It brought nothing to the story. So there are things that you could do in 7 episodes that don't waste time. And I think shows like, that Peacemaker does it. I'm just putting it out there, guys. Bloom and Sky's actors, ironically, are dating. Well, hopefully they have more chemistry in real life because they don't on the show. And I know that's horrible, but they don't. They really don't. Do you think Sam might come back in season 3? Only if they decide to put her with Riven to start some drama, a threesome again, or they like their threesomes and love triangles, so probably. Okay, for the school being taken over by Rosalind, it was a very easy for the students to just leave. Yep, campus at any point in time. Yeah, they made it seem like it was going to be like this totalitarian type like situation where like you couldn't do anything. Everything had to be approved. There were going to be like guards everywhere, specialists like walking into class. It was going to be like being in an internment camp. And it wasn't. It wasn't at all. Like, it wasn't hard. Rosalind was very hands-off for the most part outside of the magic training class. She didn't give a crap about the students. She wasn't paying attention to them. So, like, they could really do whatever the hell they wanted. It was no different than when Downing was a freaking headmistress. So, yeah, I agree with that. I don't know what was going on with that. I feel like Aisha still isn't getting as much as she could compared to the other girls. Yeah, I will say I like that they gave her more story this time, but you're right. Last season was sad. This season, at least you got a little bit of a love story. But I agree with you. Tara got more than anybody else in this series. If you really think about it, look at all the scenes. Her jealousy of Flora, her being upset about her dad and brother leaving, her being in her feelings about Musa talking to Riven and Flora talking to Riven, her flirting with the girl, coming out as gay. She had so much story that it kind of overshadowed everybody else. And I don't know why, because Tara's not that interesting of a character. I'm just being real. No hate on the actress. I don't know her from scratch. She's probably lovely. I'm talking about the character itself. I don't find her engaging. So like having her always forced in our faces all of the time is really weird. And I'm trying to support her because she got a lot of flack on her weight and her being, the character that took on it, the Flora role, like all kinds of stuff. I'm trying to support her, but it's hard when they make the character, they write her to be bitchy. It is so hard. It is so hard when she's not a likable character. But yeah, whatever. Did you finish Roswell, New Mexico? I did not, but I saw that it dropped on Netflix, so I need to. Aisha is definitely going down the Katara route. I know, right? I agree with that. Only instead of an avatar, she's got a whole bloodbender. I mean, Aisha is going to truly embrace her inner Katara. Aisha, meet. Oh, I can't see. Oh my, okay. I remain Gray has a nice day sugar. Oh wait. He would be Tarlok. He would be he would be Tarlok. So it'd be Tarlok and Aisha, basically. Or Katara and Tarlok would be Aisha and Gray. So I agree with that. Do you think we will get Evil Bloom next season? They should. I mean, Spice her up a little bit. She's boring. Like, do something. Tara storyline is giving, let's make her gay to keep people from talking about the whitewashing. It was done well, but they didn't set it up at all. Yep. And felt like it came out of nowhere. Thank you. That's exactly what I'm saying. It's exactly why I fear they did this. And again, nobody wants to bash a queer storyline. I'm queer, but I mean, there's some storylines I just don't support. I got a lot of shit from my motherland, Fort Salem view on the whole Rael and Scylla situation. Not that they didn't have chemistry, not that they weren't cute together, not that the actresses aren't adorable, but the way they put these two together without consequences for the Scylla character who killed so many people just accepted the change. It's like, that is not positive LGBTQ plus storytelling. And the fact that a man who is in the LGBTQ plus community wrote that storyline actually offends me greatly. And I lost a lot of subs over that, guys. Like literally 26 people unsubbed the day I put that review out. But you know what? Still stand by it. Don't care. And that's how I feel. I hate when LGBTQ plus is used to attract audiences because they know people will ship any effing thing. And they don't care what it is as long as they're queer. It's like, what? You're a serial killer, but you've got a soft side. Killing Eve. You know, all of these toxic relationships are put as like models for what LGBTQ plus should be. And I do not understand that shit because you can be just as effed up gay or queer as you can heterosexual. I'm just saying. So I do think that Tara is the poster child for LGBTQ plus advantage. We're using it as the poster child to please overcome the fact that we whitewashed the character and we effed up. And I feel sorry for the actress because unfortunately she's caught in the crossfire. But yeah, it's a thing. Wait a minute. Since Tara an air since Tekna will be an air fairy, then that heavily focuses on the electric side of things. Let's see, delving into technological warfare, like hacking. Let's see, like in a way to all the vital information or okay, I see where you're going with that, but I feel like I don't know. I just feel like Tara should have been Tekna. I'm just gonna put it out there. She should have been Tekna. That would have made more sense. And then it wouldn't have had all this backlash and all of this crap. They should have just made her Tekna. And then had Flora come later if they didn't want, for some reason, have Flora in the original, which doesn't make any sense. That's just me, though, because right now it's very odd to have two Earth Fairies. I'm just saying it. To have the two Earth Fairies together on one team, the one Winx team, is very, very, very weird for me. Unless they plan on doubling every fairy. I don't know how that's going to work with Bloom, but, you know, it is what it is. All right. I'm going to take a couple more questions because, guys, I cannot tell you how hot it is in this booth. I have a fan because it is like 100 degrees in here. This is where I work all day, which kind of sucks. And I usually like to open my door to let air in. But I'm essentially in a box, a coffin, basically, surrounded by very expensive foam and a very expensive microphone and very expensive audio equipment. So all this equipment makes it very hot in here. Let's see. So we talked about Tekna, so that's good. Let me see here. I agree. The execution of Souls of Redemption on Fort Salem was messy and actually stained a potentially great storyline. Yep, for the character. Scylla fell in love, and literally everything she did went poof. Yeah, and like her being good, everything was what would Rael do? It shouldn't be what would Rael do. It should be what should I do to make up for the fact that I did all this shit. And that's all I'm saying. And people are like so toxic. Ships are so toxic. It's like if you have a ship and somebody says one negative thing, they try to cancel your entire existence. And it's stupid because at the end of the day, people, these ships don't have anything to do with you. These ships aren't even real. And if they were real, you're not in it. So why? It doesn't affect you either way. They don't want you. So I don't get that. It's good to have ships. I ship people. I think couples are cute, but I'm not obsessed to the point where I'm going to like attack other people for having an opinion. So it's really weird. So yeah, I feel that this is going to happen with this too, but I don't know. Another good show that you should check out is Vampire Academy. Actually, that's in my queue because I've read the first 2 volumes of that book back in the day. I think I read that. I want to say I read it, the first volume, like the year it came out. And then they made the movie, which was okay. And ironically had the guy who played Jace in Shadowhunters as um what's his name? What's his name? Dominic? I can't remember his damn character's name. It'll come to me. But no, Dominic's his name. What was his name? Lucian? Oh, it's been a minute. I remember the main girl's name was Rose. Cannot remember his name. But anyway, but yeah, I saw the trailer. If I'm not mistaken, it's on Peacock. So I do have it. I know I have it in my queue to watch. I don't know if people are in their feelings. I think they changed the ethnicity of Rose, and I'm waiting for people to say shit. I think they changed the ethnicity of a few people. But it looks good to me, so I'm gonna check it out. I'm trying to play catch up on everything. Tonight is bad because I have a lot more voiceover stuff to do, which just means I have to get out, cook dinner, get back in here, do a few more voice things. And then I need to watch. I'm into this show called Blood and Treasure that came on last night on. It's pretty much. I love anything that reminds me of Indiana Jones meets National Treasure, and that's what that does. And then I'm also going to watch NCIS Hawaii, the season premiere. I think I watched it for hashtag Casey because they have a very cute lesbian story in it. They have two characters, a main character, and technically another regular character that's on there all the time, are in a relationship, and it's basically. It was pretty rocky last season, but looks like they're like solid this season, but we'll see. So I'm definitely watching that. And then my spouse, being Korean American and loving Quantum Leap, is very excited because I believe tonight is the series premiere of the new Quantum Leap series or reboot starring a Korean actor with a Korean character. So looks like we'll be checking that out too. So that's where we are, because I have to share the TV with River. That's the problem, guys. Got to share with River. But yeah, I definitely have that in my queue. So if I don't get to it, I'm hoping to watch it sometime on Thursday or Friday of Vampire Academy, and we'll see. Because if so, I can do a review on it. But I have to put in time to do it. I have so much stuff going on, guys. It's like I said, it's been crazy since my dad died, and so it's just a lot of stuff that keeps compiling. Something else, we have a COVID scare again. Because River works from home primarily, but had to go into the office to help out with something. And River's boss was there not wearing a mask, which River hates, which is why River doesn't go into the office. And then announced this basically on Friday that she has COVID. And so now we have to keep taking tests because we don't know if we are exposed now. Because if River's exposed, River brought it home to us. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that we don't have COVID, because I went through this when my dad died, and I do not want to go through this again. But, it is what it is, I guess. So yeah, a lot going on. So let's do a few more questions, and then I am going to go, guys, because again, it is really hot in here. Let's see. Okay. I feel like Tekna would be like time to overthrow the monarchy and establish a new form of government. She would say, but the rich, until she gets to know Stella and Aisha, given different reactions. I like that. I feel like, this is just my opinion, I feel like Tekna would leave. Because she'd be like, you guys don't understand critical thinking, and I'm all about data, so I gotta go. I'm logic. So it's time to leave. And that would be okay. I would respect that character greatly for that, honestly. Let me see. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure that, because I know I missed some. If I miss these, guys, and I have to go, make sure to put what I didn't answer, what we didn't talk about, in the comment section. Okay. My biggest annoyance is the writers took a potentially epic fantasy series and made a bottom shelf CW series with F words. The Secret Circle is a better version of what the show is trying to be. Okay, so let's talk about that. The Secret Circle should be better because it was done by L.J. Smith, and it was written in the early 90s. I'm like, and as a matter of fact, L.J. Smith also was the creator of the Vampire Diaries, which predates Twilight and all of the other shit. As a matter of fact, Stephanie Meyer took a lot of the stuff. If you read the original Vampire Diaries book series, then you will see that there are a lot of things that are very, very recognizable in Twilight. So, including imprinting, because imprinting was done when a vampire imprinted on the person they fell in love with, and Stephanie Myers just did it with werewolves. So she took a lot from L.J. Smith. And I just like to point that out because I remember when the Vampire Diaries TV show came out and everyone was like, "Oh my god, they're totally copying. They're just copying Twilight." And I'm like, "No." The Vampire Diaries predates the Twilight series, which honestly, I haven't seen all of Twilight. I had to take my daughter to see the first one because she really wanted to see it, and I just could not wrap my mind around it at all, especially the Crayola glitter stuff. So, like, I just could not get into it, but, like, yeah. L.J. Smith is a phenomenal writer. I loved her Night World series. I loved her Vampire, Diary series, and I really loved her Secret Circle series. And so, yeah, Secret Circle should have gotten more seasons. I'm actually my feelings a lot about it, but they did not. I digress. And the actress who plays Excess in the Flash CW Arrowverse, and who was also in a really cool show called Black Sails, she was one of the characters in Secret Circle. So, yeah, I agree with that 100%. Let's see here. The Vampire Academy comes from Julie Plec. She said Comic-Con. She wrote quickly on it on a planet and gives it rush for me. Wait, what? Hold on. Vampire Academy is a book series. I didn't know that she wrote that series. I don't think so. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. No, it's by Rochelle Mead. She did not write Vampire Academy. So if Julie Plec is saying that she came up with that, she lied. She may have adapted it for the screen, but that is not. Vampire Academy is a book series that was made into a movie and now made into a TV series. So I don't know. Just like Vampire Diaries was L.J. Smith. And then they had a ghostwriter after her. They literally took her series away from her because when she did I guess she didn't have an exclusive contract. She was hired to create it, but she didn't have full copyright over it. And so they got ghostwriters to continue the story, which is why the books took a very weird twist later on. And if you really want to know how the story should have gone, go read the Vampire Diaries that she put out on Amazon, because she actually published her own version after they took it away from her, after the first like 3 or 4 books she wrote. So she published them herself, self-published them. And it's drastically different. Stefan is drastically different. All of like everything about the series is drastically different. And in the original series of Vampire Diaries, Caroline's actor actually looks more how Elena looks. She's supposed to be blonde. She's supposed to have a younger sibling. Like, it's completely different than what the CW did. But, it is what it is. It is what it is. Christian. Thank you, Nicholas. Christian is who I could not effing remember. Yes, he did. I'm hoping the MCU cast Keke Palmer as Rogue. Is that what they're thinking about doing? I don't have a problem with that. As long as she has a skunk stripe. She got to have a skunk stripe, though. I'm not going for it. If we're gonna keep her white, though, my pick would have, and she's older now, though, so she wouldn't be able to do it. But my pick for Rogue, what is the name of it? 1 second. What's the name of this actress? Jamie Presley. Jamie Presley, go watch the DOA, Dead or Alive live action movie, and tell me you can't dye her hair brown and put a streak on there and that's not Rogue. She has the voice, she had the body, and she has the sass. That is my Rogue. I'm standing by it. Just like if she was a lot younger, Iman was Maya Storm. But we can't get what we want. So, but yeah, I have no problem with that. I just like to see how, but if they do, poor Keke Palmer, if they cast her as Rogue, she's going to get so much white nerd rage. You already know what's going to happen. They're going to try and cancel her. They don't care. They're just going to try and cancel her because that is what they effing do. So, more power to you, I guess. I think. Let's see. Oh, I'm still low-key pissed at Motherland, Fort Salem, open ending, so we're really doing magical colonization. Thank you. It's exactly what I effing said. People are so like, oh, it's wonderful. It's such a beautiful evolutionary spiritual ending. I'm like, no, that is not what happened. They basically said, well, bitches, if you don't want to be like us, guess what? Y'all witches now. Stop fighting by making everybody the same. Do you know who also wanted to do that? Hitler. You know how also, what fantasy group also wanted to do that? The Borg in Star Trek. I mean, everybody was effing assimilated into witchdom. That's basically what happened. It is stupid, which is why I'm sorry, guys. I think Elliot Lawrence created a great universe, but obviously his vision went a little wonky. I don't know if he was smoking. I don't know what was happening, but it just was not good. That was not good for me. It was not. Somebody should have actually checked his writing. But I guess they were like, you know what? This is the last season. We can do whatever the hell we want. Everybody's a witch now. Cool. No, that is not true. So I had a lot of problems with the ending of Motherland Fort Salem. If you want to know how I felt about it, make sure to check out my review because I sure as hell talked about it a lot. That wasn't magical colonization. It was genocide. Yep, of the mortal. Yep, of mortal race. It was literally the same goal as the Yeah, you're right. Like all the people that were allied to them, all of the human allies were also forced into becoming witches. I don't know, guys. It's just stupid. All right, it's hot. I'm getting out of here, but overall, I enjoyed this season. I told you my nitpicks. I told you stuff that I thought was annoying, but I also told you thought was kind of cool. I loved the evolution of some of the characters. I love the fact that we got Flora this season. I love the fact that we might be going on the Riven Musa trail. I like the established Romeo and Juliet relationship between, Aisha and Gray, because I would love to see how they take that further into season 3. I love Stella and Beatrix's whole friendship, relationship, whatever the hell you want to call it. I loved it. I can't say I loved Bloom or the revelation that she's 1,000 years old or any of that other stuff. I think they could have done something else with that. I'm hoping they up their game in season 3 if we get season 3, but that's what it is. I will say though, the cinematography for the show is beautiful. So I will say cinematography wise, loved it. Love the, VFX on this show. The acting is not bad. So basically there's a lot of things that I loved and a lot of things that got on my nerves. So at least I didn't hate anything. So that's a plus for me. So that is that. Guys, it's hot. So I'm probably going to double up my review on She-Hulk since I didn't get a chance to do last Wednesdays. To be fair, though, there wasn't a lot to it. So I'm hoping I probably can take that and then run with it. It wasn't a bad episode. I'm really enjoying She-Hulk. But, it was just more court-based, and it is what it is. But I'm hoping to kind of combine that episode with the one on Wednesday, and I'm going to try and do a Wednesday afternoon stream on She-Hulk, so it'll be fresh. So I'll know what's happening. And then of course Stargirl. I did my Stargirl episode 3 review earlier today. This Wednesday also, I'm pretty sure Wednesday evening is Stargirl, and then we're gonna have a lot more to talk about because Icicle Jr. is losing his damn mind. So there's that, and then we're gonna have some nerd news too because I'm trying to build up some stuff that we can talk about because I've been seeing some things. Been trying, guys. I've been trying, but yeah. So me and Naga are leaving because we're hot, and polar bear dogs do not need to be in extreme heat like I am right now. But I love you, and if it is day for you, have a good day. If it is evening for you, have a good evening, and I will see you in my next video and in my next stream. Bye, guys.